Order. I call this meeting to order. This is the Standing Committee on Human Resources. I'm Chris Palmer, the MLA for Kings West and the chair of the committee. Today, in addition to reviewing appointments to agencies, boards, and commissions, we'll hear from witnesses regarding capital plan updates on school development and maintenance initiatives. Please set your phones to silent at this moment. I'd like to ask everybody to do that so we don't have any interruptions. And please do not touch your microphone when you're called to speak. The staff here at Ledge TV will be able to turn your mic on for you when you're identified. At this point, I'd like to ask all of our committee members to introduce themselves for the record by stating their name and their constituency, beginning with MLA Outfit.
Tim Outfit, MLA Bedford Basin.
Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. It's good to see such an important crowd in the legislature today. I'm Melissa Sheehy-Richard. I'm the MLA in Hants West.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Danny McGillivray, the MLA for Pictou Centre.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's nice and large number of people here. But anyway, my name is Adi Goke, MLA for Clayton Park West.
Hi there, my name is Krista Gallagher. I'm the MLA for Halifax Pictou, and I use she, her pronouns.
Good afternoon. I'm Paul Wozni, the MLA for Sackville-Cobequid, and I use he, him pronouns.
Good afternoon. Derek Mumberkett, MLA for Sydney Member 2.
Ian Rankin, Timberley Prospect.
Thank you, committee members. And for the purposes of Hansard, I'd also like to recognize the presence of Legislative Counsel Killian Schlemmer and Legislative Committee Clerk Robin Dan. She's done a very good job of getting us all together today, so thank you to Ms. Dan. We'd like to ask our guests to just indulge us for a few minutes while our committee proceeds with appointments to agencies, boards, and commissions. So we will look for a motion to begin that process. MLA Sheehy-Richard.
For the Department of Health and Wellness, I move to recommend Paula Anderson be appointed Public Representative to the Midwifery Regulatory Council of Nova Scotia.
Motion on the table. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. MLA Sheehy-Richard.
For the Department of Health and Wellness, I move to recommend Catherine Young be appointed Public Representative to the Board of the Nova Scotia Regulator of Physiotherapy.
Motion on the table. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. MLA Sheehy-Richard.
For the Department of Health and Wellness, I move to recommend Sharon Johnson-Legier, Brandon Barton, and Vanessa Ilafola be appointed Director and Public Representatives to the Nova Scotia Prescription Monitoring Board.
Thank you. Topic on the table. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. MLA Sheehy-Richard.
Last one, Mr. Chair. For the Department of Health and Wellness, I move to recommend Dan Cochran and Holly Nicholson be appointed Public Representative to the Nova Scotia Board of Examiners in Psychology.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Thank you, committee members. So that concludes our agencies, boards, and commissions. And at this point, we'd like to welcome all of our guests this afternoon here in the legislature. We opened up the big house for you folks today. So it's great to see you all. And our topic is capital plan updates on school development and maintenance initiatives. At this point, I'd like to ask all of our witnesses to give just a brief introduction of themselves, and then we'll get into opening remarks after that. Maybe we'll begin with Mr. Gallagher.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Steve Gallagher, the Regional Executive Director for the HRCE.
Good afternoon. I'm Dave Jones, Regional Executive Director, Annapolis Valley Regional Center for Education.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gerard Purdy, Regional Executive Director for the Tri-County Regional Center for Education.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Susan Kelly, Regional Executive Director for Cape Breton, Victoria.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Karen Cooling, Regional Executive Director of Chignecto Central Regional Center for Education.
Bonjour à tous. My name is Michel Collette. I'm the Superintendent for the Conseil Scolaire Académie Provinciale.
Good afternoon. Angela Gladwin, the Regional Executive Director for the South Shore Regional Center for Education.
Good afternoon. Paul Landry, Regional Executive Director for the Strait Regional Center for Education.
Good afternoon. My name is Tina Thibeau, and I'm a Senior Executive Director at the Department of Early Education and Childhood Development.
Good afternoon, everybody. Tracey Barbrick, the Deputy Minister of Department of Education and Early Childhood and Advanced Education.
Good afternoon, everyone. Tonya McLellan, Department of Public Works, Building, Infrastructure, and Design.
Hi, I'm Gerard Jessome, Chief Executive of Engineering with Public Works.
I'm way back here. Paul LaFleche, I'm the Executive Deputy Minister and Deputy Minister for Public Works and Municipal Affairs.
Thank you, everyone. So at this point, we'd like to invite those who will be giving opening remarks to begin with their opening comments. I'm going to go through the lists that I have provided by the clerk, and we'll begin with Mr. Jessome.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the invitation to speak to the committee today. I am the Chief Executive of Engineering, Building Infrastructure with the Department of Public Works. I am joined by Paul LaFleche, the Executive Deputy Minister of Infrastructure, and Tonya McLellan, Executive Director of Design and Construction. Also with us is Krista Ranahan, Director of Education Infrastructure. Building and maintaining provincial infrastructure is a core function of the Department of Public Works. This includes managing school projects in communities across the province. We work closely with the Department of Education and Early Childhood Development and all educational entities, including CSAP and the Regional Centers for Education, to deliver school projects that best meet the needs of students, teachers, and parents. Once a community has been identified as requiring a new school, we work closely with Education and Early Childhood Development on site selection, design, and the construction process. By working together, we are able to use our department's skill sets, Education and Early Childhood Development's understanding of what Nova Scotians' families need in a modern, accessible school, and Public Works' knowledge of how to construct and deliver these projects. Across the construction sector, we are seeing more challenges. These include inflation, labor disruptions, and supply chain issues. These problems can result in rising costs and longer timelines, but we work very hard to find solutions to limit the impact that they have and keep these projects moving forward. We are always looking at ways to deliver the best value for Nova Scotians. Thank you, and I would be happy to answer the committee's questions.
Thank you, Mr. Jessome. We'd like to turn to Deputy Minister Barbrick now.
Thank you for the opportunity to join you today to talk about this important topic. As you know, the department recently appeared before the Standing Committee on Public Accounts on a very similar topic, recent improvements to our school capital process. I appreciate being here today with this broader panel of supporting witnesses to delve deeper into how we work with communities and our partners to plan, build, and maintain Nova Scotia schools. Many of you are familiar with Nova Scotia's school capital plan. In fact, more than half of the members on this committee have a school project moving through our school capital process, which isn't all that surprising, given that 19 new or replacement schools are currently part of our plan. And as we work with the Department of Public Works to advance these new and replacement school projects, we are also investing in preserving, refreshing, and extending the lives of our existing schools. Annual funding to repair and refresh school buildings is now $30 million, a major increase from just $6 million a few years ago. Throughout the past 2 years, this funding has supported more than 100 school maintenance projects across the province, new roofs, boilers, windows, and we also invest in modular classrooms to respond to immediate growth needs. While we build out our ambitious capital plan, modular classrooms allow us to act quickly so we can address growth needs now and into the future. Together with regions, the Conseil Scolaire, and Departments of Public Works and Finance, we are planning and delivering the school capital projects that communities need. As I assured your colleagues on Public Accounts Committee, everyone involved in our school capital process shares an unwavering commitment to responsible, equitable, and evidence-based planning and advancing all school projects as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Barbrick. Mr. Gallagher.
Thank you, Chair. Today, the HRCE is comprised of more than 60,000 students, 10,000 staff, and 136 schools organized into 18 families of schools. For the past several years, HRCE's story has been one of enrollment growth. Between 2017 and 2025, our enrollment has increased by more than 11,000 students. This rapid expansion represents a period of change greater than any other in my 28-year career as an educator here in Halifax, and it has not been without challenge. Fortunately, the HRCE has been able to lean on strong partnerships with the Department of Education and Early Childhood Development and the Department of Public Works to meet this challenge through a significant capital commitment. Since 2017, the HRCE has received 8 new schools in communities across HRM, with plans to open 11 more in the coming years. In addition, we have responded to this growth with the addition of 187 modular classrooms, which create annex facilities, and 53 standalone portable classrooms. Our partnership has also led to meaningful investment in our existing schools in recent years. Since 2021, more than $32 million has been invested in upgrades, including, but not limited to, heating, roof repairs and replacements, window and building upgrades, and accessibility improvements. Today, our planning team actively monitors our growth, identifies potential areas of concern, and makes recommendations to the Department of Education and Early Childhood Development, all with the goal of ensuring that there is space for every student in the HRCE to grow, learn, and thrive. I look forward to answering your questions regarding enrollment growth, capital plans, and maintenance initiatives in the HRCE. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gallagher, and I must say it's nice to see another J.L. Leslie grad here today. We'll move on to Mr. Jones.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for the invitation to join you today to talk about capital plan updates on school development and maintenance. I'd like to begin by saying I'm proud of the work operations staff and tradespeople in Annapolis Valley Regional Center for Education do to maintain our schools. Their commitment has resulted in schools that are in good shape and provide effective learning spaces for our approximately 14,000 learners. Over the past 4 years, we have seen a student enrollment increase of approximately 250 students, with the most population growth centered in Kings County. While not as significant as you would see here in Halifax Regional Municipality, there has been a significant amount of housing development across our region. There are 40 schools and 2 adult high schools in the AVRC with approximately 2.3 million square feet to maintain. Our oldest schools were constructed in the early 1950s, and our newest school was built in 2017. Currently, we do not have any major capital projects under construction. Our operations staff focus primarily on regular and preventive maintenance. As you can expect, with aging schools comes the need for upgrades and maintenance. In our region, recent upgrades have included ventilation, heating systems, and energy improvements. To support the implementation and expansion of the Nova Scotia School Lunch Program, many of our school cafeterias have seen enhancements to electrical, plumbing, ventilation, and fire protection systems. I want to take a moment to acknowledge the positive, collaborative relationship we have with the Department of Education and Childhood Development and the Department of Public Works as we work together to maintain and upgrade schools. Again, thank you for the opportunity to join you today. I'm looking forward to the conversation on planning, maintaining, and building schools across the province and providing information that may give context about schools in the Annapolis Valley.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Purdy.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I'm pleased to be here today on behalf of the entire team at the Tri-County Regional Center for Education to share updates on our capital planning work. We appreciate the opportunity to discuss the steps we are taking to maintain and improve our schools. The TCRCE serves communities across Digby, Yarmouth, and Shelburne counties over an area of approximately 7,000 square kilometers with a population of more than 55,000. We have 22 schools that currently welcome just over 6,100 students. Enrollment in our region has remained steady, and we've seen minimal fluctuations in the last few years. Just as you've heard from my colleagues, our region also receives provincial funding to support essential repairs and upgrades that preserve the longevity of our buildings and facilities. These investments tackle identified priorities, such as structural repairs, system upgrades, and renovations. When determining potential capital projects in the Tri-Counties, we look for issues we can address before they escalate, as planning for the future of our buildings is always top of mind. Over the past 3 years, approximately $7.2 million has been directed towards improvements across our schools. These efforts have a direct benefit on our students' overall educational experience, and I hope to share a number of impactful stories from each of our 3 counties with you today. When planning for the future, our focus will remain on creating environments that inspire learning and support our students to reach their full academic potential. Continued progress will depend on our strong partnerships with government and the ongoing commitment of our regional team to deliver solutions that meet the needs of our communities. Thank you for your time and for the opportunity to share these updates.
Thank you, Mr. Purdy. We'll move on to Ms. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. Today, the CBVRCE is comprised of more than 13,000 students, approximately 2,100 staff, and 38 schools organized in 4 families of schools. For the past several years, CBVRCE's story has been one of enrollment growth. Between 2021 and 2024, our enrollment increased by more than 600 students. For 2025, however, we showed a decrease of approximately 190 students. In September of 2024, CBVRCE opened a beautiful new school building, Breton Education Center, for students in grades 6 to 12 in New Waterford. Also in September of the same year, we opened 4 new modular classrooms for the pre-primary students at Greenfield Elementary School. In May of 2025, the provincial government announced the sites for 2 new school buildings, one for Reserve in the Glace Bay area to replace Tompkins Memorial Elementary School, and one for Sydney Mines Middle School. Our partnership has also led to meaningful investment in our existing schools in recent years. Since 2021, more than 20, but not limited to, roof, window replacements, kitchen, cafeteria, classroom improvements, electrical upgrades. This investment in existing schools not only improves the facility condition index, but also extends the life of those schools. I look forward to hearing any questions the committee may have about our work in CBVRCE. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Cooling.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for the invitation to attend today. The Chignecto Central Regional Center for Education serves approximately 20,000 students and employs 4,000 staff across 65 schools that we organize into 4 family of schools. Over the past 5 years, CCRCE has experienced modest growth in enrollment. Our geographical area is extensive, spanning from the New Brunswick border to the Antigonish County line and from the Northumberland Strait to the Halifax Regional Municipality extending towards Windsor, covering approximately 13,500 square kilometers. In collaboration with the province, we have opened 2 new schools, have 1 currently in progress, and have completed a major capital renovation at an existing school. Additionally, over the past 3 years, approximately $10 million has been invested in upgrades to our existing buildings. These improvements include heating system replacements, roof repairs and replacements, window and building upgrades, and paving projects. Across all our school buildings, our priority remains to ensure that every student feels safe, supported, and valued at CCRCE. I look forward to answering any questions you may have regarding capital plans with Chignecto Central. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Monsieur Collette.
Mr. Chair and the members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. I am the superintendent of the Conseil scolaire acadien provincial, Nova Scotia's only French first language school board. 23 schools, just under 7,000 children. I would like to draw your attention to the significant infrastructure deficit that continues to limit equitable access to French first language education in our province. According to 2021 Statistics Canada census and CSAP's 2023-2024 student data, only 27.5% of eligible students currently attend French first language schools in Nova Scotia. In other words, nearly 3 out of 4 children who are entitled under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms to receive their education in French are unable to do so, or at the very least, do not have equitable access to French first language education. Although there are many contributing factors, geography and extremely large catchment areas remain among the most significant barriers to equitable access. For instance, no student from Amherst currently attends a French first language school, as the nearest one is in Truro, nearly 200 kilometers round trip. Likewise, very few students from New Glasgow are able to attend, since their nearest French school is past Antigonish, roughly 140 kilometers round trip. To illustrate the scale of this challenge even within HRM, L'École Secondaire du Sommet in Bedford serves a catchment area that includes Halifax, Bedford, Sackville, extends nearly as far as Wolfville, and past Peggy's Cove. All of this is documented in the report L'essor de la francophonie en Nouvelle-Écosse, which was released publicly about 2 weeks ago. CSAP currently has 3 replacement schools at various stages of construction. However, these are generally older buildings inherited from the English system at the time of CSAP's creation. They are now being replaced simply because they have reached the end of their life cycle. These projects do not address new growth or unmet demand. The current provincial capital plan included funds for schools that are over capacity or located in high growth areas of HRM. Of the 4 schools announced in that category, none were CSAP schools, even though several of our schools, including L'École Secondaire du Sommet in Bedford, which now relies on 8 modular classrooms, are already at or beyond capacity. For the 25-26 school year, the CSAP is the fastest growing educational entity from P to 12 in Nova Scotia. Yet our infrastructure has not kept pace with this growth. Following the release of L'essor de la francophonie, Minister Maguire proposed the creation of a joint working group between the CSAP, the Department of Education and Early Childhood Development, and Canadian Affairs to explore potential solutions. We see this as an important first step, and we look forward to working collaboratively towards a meaningful progress. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, we will go to Ms. Gladwin, please.
Thank you for welcoming the South Shore Regional Centre for Education to today's discussion. We value the chance to share updates on our capital planning and the work underway to maintain and improve our schools. I'm pleased to share a little more background information about our region. South Shore Regional Centre for Education stretches along Nova Scotia's South Shore, serving communities in Lunenburg and Queens counties. This is an area of 5,250 square kilometers, with a population of just over 59,000. We have 23 schools that currently welcome approximately 6,800 students. Our enrollment numbers have remained steady over the last several years with a slight increase. Like other regions, we rely on provincial funding to keep our facilities safe, functional, and conducive to learning. These investments not only address critical needs, such as structural repairs, system upgrades, and renovations, but also support our proactive approach to maintenance. By anticipating potential issues and implementing repairs in advance, we extend the life of our buildings and create a better experience for students and staff. In the past 3 years, more than $7 million has been directed toward improvements across our schools. Projects have included envelope repairs, such as replacing aging roofs, upgrading heating and plumbing systems, and structural enhancements. These efforts have made a tangible difference in safety, energy efficiency, and overall usability of our buildings. Looking ahead, we remain committed to ensuring our staff and our students are in safe and secure learning environments. This will be possible with the continued collaboration between government departments and my dedicated colleagues who make up the SSRCE regional team. I appreciate your time and attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gladwin. And my apologies, Mr. Landry. I understand you want to give some opening remarks as well. So last but not least, I mean it this time, Mr. Landry.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. On behalf of the Strait Regional Centre for Education, thank you for the invitation to attend today's meeting. I appreciate the opportunity to share information with you on capital updates and on school development and maintenance initiatives. To provide some context, the Strait Regional Centre for Education is a rural region located in the northeastern part of Nova Scotia. We operate 20 schools across Antigonish and Guysborough counties on the mainland, and Inverness and Richmond counties on Cape Breton Island. Our geographic region covers an area of approximately 11,000 square kilometers with a population of just under 54,000. Our current enrollment is 6,311 students. We have not experienced a significant change in our enrollment over the last 5 years. The Strait Regional Centre for Education receives provincial funding to support additional repairs and upgrades to extend the lives of buildings and facilities such as renovations and infrastructure repairs that enhance the learning and teaching environment for our students and staff. Over the past 3 years, our collaboration with the province has resulted in $7.8 million in school upgrades. These investments include roof repairs and replacements, heating system enhancements, building and envelope improvements. These upgrades have significantly improved the safety, efficiency, and functionality of our schools. We look forward to continuing our partnership with our colleagues at the Departments of Education and Early Childhood Development and Public Works, along with the work of our dedicated regional staff to ensure students and staff are in safe, healthy, and secure learning environments.
Thank you very much. So that concludes our opening statements. We'll now move into our question and answer period by questions presented by different caucuses. We will look at the first hour, and we'll have 20 minutes for the official opposition, 10 minutes for the Liberal Party, and 30 minutes for the PC Party. And again, just a reminder, please wait till you're identified before you speak. That gives the Ledge TV time to turn on your microphones. And with a lot of people, I'm going to do my best to direct some traffic here. And there might be the odd time where someone wants to add a comment to another question. We'll do our best to kind of make sure every voice gets heard today. So we will move to our NDP caucus for the first round of questioning. MLA Wozni.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to direct this question to representatives from the Regional Centers for Education and the CSAP. We've heard from the Auditor General that since 2019, successive governments have failed to adhere to their policy of including representation from regional centers and the CSAP in decision-making processes that determine where infrastructure funding for schools is going. Can the representatives here today speak to their recent and ongoing experiences of how and when their voices are considered as government makes school capital decisions?
So there's no direct person you want to direct that to? Is there...
Just making note that there are 7 Anglophone regional centers and the CSAP who potentially should be having input at various stages. We just want to open the floor to each of them. Maybe I'll have comment, maybe only some. I'm open to however responses unfold.
All right, very good. We can begin with Mr. Gallagher.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I appreciate the Auditor General's report was identifying a problem in process. My own experience and the experience of the team at the HRCE is that there's been extensive ongoing consultation and communication regarding the needs in Halifax and indeed the decisions made around capital. So, and I'd also comment, thinking about the last few years, we've evolved our process. I think coming out of COVID in 2020, 2021, when population here in the city really started to climb, the process that had been put in place in 2019 really didn't contemplate growth. And so there was very much a finding a way together, at least in terms of HRCE staff and EECD staff. And my own experience has been an extensive amount of consultation.
Is there anyone else? Emily Wozni, are you looking for other input from anyone else who'd like to answer the question? Monsieur Collette.
So the process would look different at CSAP just because there's an elected board. So for us, the elected board goes through a process of educational priorities. So that process is extensive, it's data-driven, and then we submit priorities to EECD for approval. Once that goes into EECD, historically, there have been very little conversations between the board and EECD on decisions made by EECD on infrastructure priorities. I'm hoping that the new committee that we've formed will help change that.
I don't see any more takers on this question, MLA Wozni, or is there anybody else that would like to answer the question? Okay, MLA Wozni.
I think.
Oh, sorry. Ms. Cooling.
Response. So in Chignecto Central, we have not received the growth population increase that Halifax has received. So we do our internal process where we would go through a screening process to determine which schools we would prioritize to put forward to the department in relation to capital requests. From there, we would have conversations about it, but I recognize that with the vast population increase in Halifax right now, we wouldn't be in the same situation of needing to be in that ongoing dialogue of enrollment growth that we're seeing every day in this area.
MLA Wozni?
I guess I'll direct this follow-up to perhaps EECD senior staff. Having heard comments from representation of school districts, urban, francophone, and sort of bedroom or outside of Halifax, there's a different lived experience of how often voices are heard in capital planning decisions for schools. Given that the department has agreed to accept and implement all of the Auditor General's recommendations in her most recent report, how will the department take these responses offered today back and work to better include regional representation and its voices at various stages of the process moving forward?
Deputy Barbrick.
Thank you for the question. In terms of process, there is an annual process for both capital replacement as well as capital repairs. So the capital replacement is of course the big 19 schools that have been announced. The repair budget is the $30 million that's intended to improve schools and maintain their facility condition assessment to ensure that schools, we keep the life in the schools as long as we possibly can. So each of the RCEs and the CSAP do their own internal process that a few of them have identified to submit their priorities for their regional area. So those typically come in with a project rationale attached, the condition of the existing schools, if it's a replacement school, the existing use of any modulars or portables and how they're addressing any crowding issues, community impact of a school replacement project, any occupational safety concerns in the existing school, program needs that are offered in the existing school, the risk of not proceeding, and a cost-benefit analysis of the replacement. So those come into the department from all of our partners here with me. And then the department goes about the provincial comparison process of all of those conditions, because while each of my colleagues have priorities for their own geographic or mandate, the department and the province is responsible to compare all those against each other, against that scoring, along with the capital envelope that we have identified in the capital plan, and make those announcements. So the Auditor General, her comments were in large part focused around the growth schools that hadn't been contemplated really before 2020, when all of the projections for the province was that our population was expected to decline. And then 2020 hit and we went, oh boy, we need to think about a whole nother layer here. So the Auditor General's commentary was largely, we don't have enough tightened process around growth schools. I also think that addresses CSAP's points around the equitable responsibility to ensure access to French. So that what we're working on now and what we committed to at the Auditor General is that we would frame out a quantifiable assessment for those growth schools. Her report largely did say our existing replacement process was pretty good. It's the growth schools that we need to work on, and that's what we're working on now.
Thank you. Emily Wozni.
Yeah, I guess I don't disagree entirely with the Deputy Minister's comments. I would extend the conversation by drawing attention to the fact that the Auditor General raised questions about how, there were comments made by the Minister and senior department staff about the role of regional fairness factoring into decisions and the absence of any criteria or process by which regional fairness was determined. And I simply ask these questions because we have 3 different regional centers reporting 3 different lived experiences of how and when their voices are heard and considered in making capital planning decisions. So I'm certainly not suggesting that everything is broken, but I think it leaves the department vulnerable to perceptions of bias and unfairness if there isn't a standard process or interval of communication with all regional centers on capital planning until such time as we have a rigorous framework that ensures that regional fairness is a criteria-based, evidence-based sort of factor in decision making. So I offer that in a supportive spirit, not necessarily in a critical one. I'd like to follow up with a question for the EECD. Portables are used at 9% of schools in the province, not including the expanding use of modulars. As a classroom teacher who's taught in both types of structures, there are fundamental differences between those and classrooms inside school buildings. Portables contain 1 classroom and no bathrooms or running water. HRCE's opening statement indicates that there are 53 new portables in use since 2017. I'm wondering if the department has a long-term strategy to move all students currently learning in portables into permanent buildings, or are portables merely here to stay?
Deputy Barbrick.
Yeah, thank you for the question. It is absolutely the fact that since 2021, a new portable has not been put in place as we've moved to modulars, which are more of an annex design that is intended to augment the primary school space. And those are anywhere from 4 to 12 classrooms. They have washrooms and running water and HVAC systems and are really an additional capacity to the school. And that's where we are, in the condition that we've been with the growth in the province that kind of came, as a little bit of a curveball. The use of modulars has been intended to augment the square footage that we have to solve our immediate problem while we build another 25 schools, really, with the ones that have opened already and the 19 that are in various states of development now. So portables are a bit of an older approach to it before modulars existed. Of course, with the expanded capacity in schools with the 19 builds, 24 if you count the ones that are open. That is not the intent for the long-term plan. They are solving short-term problems, and frankly our capital repair or capital replacement project prior to 2021 was, there was quite a backlog that really had not been progressing in a long time. So we had both replacement schools that needed to be done as well as this growth. So it was a bit of a perfect storm because the capital replacement work had not happened for years, so we had to deal with that, and we had to deal with the growth. So portables are a bit of an older model, modulars, newer model, but not the long-term plan until while we catch up with all the capital needs.
Thank you. Emily Wozni.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to direct this question to the representatives from Regional Centers for Education and the CSIP. I'm wondering if you can speak to how your respective organizations monitor the impact of learning in portables on students.
So on these questions put forward to the Centers for Education, I'll look for direction from somebody who, with a hand, or anybody that would like to take MLA Wozni question first. Mr. Gallagher.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the question. It's an interesting one, and it's one we've asked ourselves frequently in the last little bit, broader than portables, but also talking about the annex facilities and modulars. And at this stage, I can't give you a definitive answer in terms of whether we're seeing an impact in terms of learning. We're certainly collecting anecdotal evidence from families, but primarily from staff. And I would say to you, and as your own experience in the HRC would validate, I'm sure, teachers and students much prefer modulars to portables. And the portable, as the deputy said, it's kind of an older solution to a problem of temporary growth. And we are moving rapidly to retire those. The two sets of modular units that we added to the inventory this year over the course of the summer, Hammonds Plains Elementary and also an Astral over in Dartmouth, were replacing portable units that had reached the end of life. So rather than simply land portables, we put modulars there. And I think it's clear, at least from the anecdotal reporting, that an annex facility with washrooms, staff room, central hallway creates a better learning environment than the portable. But as I've always said, and I think the staff of the HRCE demonstrate, it doesn't really matter what building you're in, it's all about the teacher. And I'm sure you would agree with me that a dynamic teacher can lead students to success in virtually any environment.
Okay, MLA Wozni.
Perhaps I might ask the same question to Monsieur Collette, noting that plenty of CSAP sites are home to modulars and portables as well. How does your organization monitor the impact of learning in these alternative spaces rather than standard classrooms?
Monsieur Collette.
So CSAP doesn't have a whole lot of portables left, and we have one school with modulars. And we've had modules at that school for a few years. I would echo Mr. Gallagher's response in the sense that although infrastructure is important, a teacher is a teacher is a teacher. I have confidence that teachers can teach in various environments. We are as well collecting data from parents, from students, and from staff to answer that question. But I would echo what Mr. Gallagher has said.
Thank you. MLA Gallagher with 4 minutes and 40 seconds.
Okay, I've got 4 minutes. Thank you, Chair. I'm curious, and this is for the EECD, I'm curious about pre-primary classrooms and if they are at or near capacity.
Deputy Barbrick.
Yeah, thanks. The pre-primary classrooms, in essence, are not so different from the other classrooms in the school in terms of each of my colleagues here would be mapping out their configuration of their school and their capacity of the school for the full student body. So the pre-primary class really is kind of part of that functional year-over-year assessment of classroom space.
MLA Gallagher.
Full day childcare spots, they can be hard to come by. They can offer greater flexibility for parents when it comes to drop-off and part-time pickups amongst parents to 4 and 5-year-olds. Are you seeing higher demand for full day childcare or pre-primary?
Deputy Barbrick.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Pre-primary, the last number I had seen, I didn't come prepared with a lot of data on that, so apologies, and I can get back to you on a couple of things. But the last number I had seen was some version of about 75% of children that are eligible for pre-primary are attending pre-primary. The difference in that is families that are choosing to have their child in another environment, because pre-primary, of course, is not mandatory. The Childcare, full-time childcare, yes, absolutely, has been the shortage there was the impetus to the federal government's investment and our work to build capacity over the last since 2021. I'm pleased to report that our target with our federal agreement was 9,500 additional spaces. We're at 94% of that. And some of that, is, of course, is full-time childcare. Some of it is infant care. Some is before and after school care. But we're headed in the right direction. And of course, there continues to be demand, which varies across the province depending on capacity in that area. So our focus on capital investments to build childcare facilities, to expand childcare facilities, the work that my colleagues have done here on before and after school care is very impressive. And we'll continue to strive towards that target by the end of March 2026.
Thank you. MLA Gallagher.
Thank you, Chair. I just have two questions that I'm trying to get through in a minute and a half. At a different committee, Deputy, you said that the department had some pretty good data on childcare demand in the province. Can you tell me how many parents are currently waiting for a childcare spot?
Deputy Barbrick.
Yeah, thanks for that. I can't tell you that because we don't currently have a provincial registry for every family that's looking for childcare. So right now, in each geographic area, families would be seeking childcare for whatever fits their personal needs. Sometimes that's full-time care, sometimes that's part-time care, sometimes it's before and after school care. So at this point, there's not a provincial registry that exists in the province, and we continue to work with all our childcare providers to understand where the real pressures are, and that informs our capital investment strategy.
Thank you. MLA Gallagher.
Thank you, Deputy. I am also curious, there is a new CSAP school planned for Halifax, Shabukdo, on the corner of Oxford and Bears. And I'm just curious if we have a scheduled open date for that school?
Would that be Deputy Barbrick, or would that be... Sorry? Oh, Ms. McLellan? 10 seconds.
Hi, thank you for the question. So the school, as you know, is currently under construction. We continue to monitor the progress daily. We're doing...
Order. Sorry, I do have to proceed with the next round of questioning. We will now move on to the Liberal Caucus with 10 minutes. And I need a direction of who will be beginning. All right. MLA Mumbercat.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, everyone, for coming from all over the province. Good to see many of you. My first question is around your thoughts around enrollment. And, we heard it a few times in the opening comments around, the strait is kind of leveled out enrollment-wise, and we're starting to see stabilization and if not decline outside of HRM. Like, obviously, a lot of the growth was HRM. We've seen a bit of growth too in the CBRM, fastest growing community. But I think it's an important conversation to have, especially around infrastructure, because I come from a community that saw a decline for almost a generation, and then we saw a bump, and then we saw what happens to infrastructure and the stress that it can put on the infrastructure that we have for our kids. But now my fear is that we're starting to see the economy weaken, which is obvious. We're starting to see a situation where government investment is going to get more difficult based on their own decisions. But the population is always one for me that is, as it is for many, where it is really an indication of a number of things. So this is an open question, Mr. Chair, because there's a number, not too often you get all the executive directors in a room that represent various areas of the province, but what's happening in HRM is not happening in other communities. We're seeing decline again. So I guess my question is, can I get some feedback from you in your role, particularly in the communities where you're starting to see that population decline?
Mr. Jones.
Thanks for the question. In the Annapolis Valley, in 1996, we had around 18,000 students. We've leveled out to around 14,000, including pre-primary. That looks like it's going to be leveled out about that same number for the next 5 years or so. So we're seeing it coming up and down by 100 or so, but not significant over the next 5 years.
Okay to proceed, Mr. McLellan? Yep. Mr. Purdy.
Thank you for the question. In Tri-County, it's certainly not a story of growth. Over the last 3 years, we've remained fairly consistent across all 3 counties. A 3-year trend shows us down about 50 students, so it has been pretty consistent in Tri-County over the last 3 years, but there was a decline. Thank you.
Ms. Cooley.
So for Chignecto Central, our enrollment has increased in the last 4 years after COVID, a slight increase. As I said, it was modest, around 400-ish, but then we've fluctuated and we've come down about 200 for this year. Our current projections that we utilize a software to do our enrollment projections, we're currently looking as though we'll be leveled out, not a huge decline and not a huge increase.
Ms. Kelly?
It's very similar to the others in Cape Breton. As you heard, we did have an increase just after COVID, and we've gone down this year. But as we look across the years going forward, similar to what Karen said in CCRCE, it's kind of not big or small increase and decrease. Thank you.
Monsieur Collette?
So CSAP looks a little different. This year we had 3.2% increase, highest in the province, and highest since COVID. So we are seeing an extensive growth in French first language. The future of the French language in this province is largely based on immigration. And the province is recruiting doctors and nurses from everywhere. And a lot of the people that register in our schools are people the province is actively recruiting. So although there are systems that we use for demographic, those systems are usually largely off for the French language because political decisions that are made in this room or in Ottawa do impact largely the French population. So we are seeing an increase, and we believe that the increase will continue as the province continues to recruit these professionals from across the country and across the world.
Would Mr. Landry or Ms. Gladwin like to? Sorry, Ms. Gladwin.
Yes. In the South Shore, we would have seen, as I said, a slight increase. Expected to see maybe 30 more students next year, and then we'll begin to see a slight decline, actually, in South Shore.
And Mr. Landry.
Thank you. As you mentioned, our enrollment hasn't experienced significant change in the last 5 years, which to us has been, we're very pleased about that, because prior to that we spent years of enrollment decline, typically averaging between 200 and 300 students of declining each year. So we're quite pleased that we've leveled off, and it sort of bumps up and down a little bit, but it's certainly leveled out, and we're pleased with that.
And we'll go to Mr. Gallagher.
Thank you, Chair. I know you were interested in areas outside the city, but I'll offer that in Halifax, we've seen a significant change just this year. You know, I talked about the huge growth that's happened. This year, we were projected to have about 1,500 additional students, and we got just under 500. Our projections indicate that we would grow by another 16,000 students by 2034. Clearly that those projections need to be revised, and we're expecting new data at some point in the winter. We'll analyze that, and I suspect that those projections are going to come dramatically down based on this year. And you know, I think the federal position on immigration is impacting enrollment in the city.
Emily Mumbercat.
Well, listen, I appreciate that. As I said, Mr. Chair, you don't get an opportunity to have all the senior leadership in the same room in a committee, and those population models are really going to matter. It's, you know, it's your best guess at some point. You know what I mean? You look at the trends, but then all of a sudden you have a world pandemic, and then all of a sudden you have you know, you have economic woes, et cetera. So I appreciate that information, and I think that that's really going to be important moving forward. I do want to ask a question specific to the new Francophone school that was going down on Oxford Street, something that was approved back in a few years back. I'm just looking for an update and is based on your population increase when it comes to your enrollment. How's that project going? Through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Collette.
Monsieur Collette.
So we're really excited about that project. That school in Oxford and Bayers is progressing. It is built for about 700 students. The current school that it replaces has about 450 at the moment. So that school was built with extra capacity and was designed at the time of that whole population boom. So that school should be okay for the next few years, anyways.
MLA Mumbercat.
And correct me if I'm wrong, through to Mr. Collette, it was expected to be open in the spring. Is it still on schedule?
Monsieur Collette.
I would defer that question to EECD.
Would Ms. McLellan?
Thank you for the question. As I started to say during the last round of questioning, obviously the school is under construction. It's progressing well. We're continuing to monitor the progress very closely. We are anticipating completion in the 2026 year. So things right now are on schedule for the completion dates that were originally given.
Thank you. MLA Mumbercat.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I know I only have a minute 30 left here before this round's done. But it goes to the question, I asked the question around that school in particular, because it comes to the question around trades, right? And the ability of having trades to do the work. We see construction happening across the province in various aspects. That decisions have been made over the past decade, really, on some of the work. Through you to the committee with only a minute so somebody can decide who wants to answer it, or maybe it's to the deputy and her staff. Are we confident that with everything that has been announced, that you have the trades necessary to build these schools on time and on budget?
Deputy Barbrick.
Thank you for the question. I can start, and my colleagues at Public Works that are closer to each of these construction projects certainly has, possibly more to add there. But really, over the last 4 years, we've added a version of 1,000 skilled trades seats in Nova Scotia Community College through direct entry skilled trades. So. And a number of other economic incentives to ensure that we're growing skilled trades in the province, as well as right down into our school system with the addition of skilled trade centers across the province and doing everything we can to attract people to the trades. I think there was a time where trades were not viewed as the desperate value that we place on them nowadays, and you're seeing that translate into student choices as they leave high school.
Order. Sorry, I have to end that round of questioning. We'll now move on to the governing caucus with 30 minutes, and I'll begin with MLA Fathere.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Chair. I think one of the things I hear clearly today is that the significant investment is being made towards education, and that we've seen prior to COVID, there was a planning for decline, and we can see now that has changed with a lot of our investments. I want to ask around community engagement. So my question will be directed to Department of Education. I just want to know regarding engagement during capital planning process. Could the department outline how communities, because what is happening right now in my community, and there's a lot of conversation around it, including residents, school advisory councils are engaged throughout each stage of the process of selecting a new school. Specifically, how is the feedback incorporated either into the decision making for the design, the site use, or the selection of it, and even the transitional planning? I don't know if you could speak to that.
Deputy Barbrick.
Thank you for the question. We can probably use your school and your community as a bit of an example in terms of where engagement is kind of built into the process. The original step of site selection, when it's been announced that a school will either be replaced or a net new school to the system, There is originally engagement with the community at both the municipal level and the department level around the interests of the community on the front end. After a site is selected that takes into account some of that feedback, there is an advisory committee constructed that consists of community members, school staff, as well as school leadership. And that committee is involved throughout the design process and really charged with supporting communication out to the community as well as providing input to the design. I would offer that there is a fairly robust standard around school builds that really is a bit of a formula as it relates to what goes into a school, the square footage allocated for different functions, and the advisory committee works within that standard and with the school leadership, the Department of Education, as well as Public Works, to inform the community interests in those projects. There are times where there's an interest in having something part of a school that is not part of the standard school education space. And when that happens, there's typically engagement with the municipality to see if there's something else that they're interested in having as part of that school that's funded in another way. It's not funded through the school capital fund, but rather through the engagement with the local municipality.
Thank you. MLA Fatheree.
I can testify to that because obviously Clayton Parkway is a unique place. We don't have communities, centers like that. So that's why we're always very concerned about the construction and the design. And I'm really excited about the people who are in this, the advisory council, and they represent a cross-section of the people within there. I want to ask around communication when the site project starts, because I think that needs to be underscored, because obviously we know that during Thanksgiving, some side movement happened, and as a result of that, there was this lack. So I just want to be able to ask what mechanisms have been put in place to ensure the residents can have easy access to what I call credible updates, because we all have community groups and all kinds of information travels in that, and many of those are not true. And so people are giving their thoughts or their assumptions, but I'm just wondering where can they get easy access, and what mechanism in place for people to get easy, credible updates about projects, such as either timelines, traffic scenarios, things around environmental measures, in such a way that it's both clear and well coordinated, because there have been instances where people have had to reach out to the site workers to get information, and site workers are very far off from the plan, it never turns out well. So I'm just wondering what mechanisms are in place for that. Thank you.
Deputy Barbrick.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I entirely appreciate how communities look for information, and if they can't find it in a credible location, they'll get it where they can get it. I understand that, including stopping by sites and visiting with, trades people and things like that. So there's a couple of ways right now, and I will acknowledge that the Auditor General provided some commentary that she felt that we needed to strengthen that, and we've agreed. So there are two places right now. There's a website that really provides information that's at the process level. So the steps in the process, from the announcement of a school to the day it's open, which is quite general information. And then we work locally with the RCEs, particularly through the advisory committee as well, to get information out to people so that they can both be aware of the progress. And we don't really want people stopping by construction sites too much, in the spirit of safety, and it's a lot of pressure on workers to provide that kind of information. So right now, the website and through the steering committee is how we're doing that, and engagement with the RCE and CSAP, but I also recognize we need to strengthen that.
MLA Fatheree.
Thank you for that feedback. I think part of what we could also do is to maybe work with the local MLA offices too, because that's always where people go to when there's a lot of those crises, and sometimes we're caught unawares, and that puts us not just in a funny situation, but also the fact that it looks like government is not well coordinated or something as regards that. I want to ask, so obviously regarding this site, so I'm asking about Clay Park West, I apologize. Obviously, like we know that the construction the work is going on, there's a field, there's going to be a shared field. I know people have been asking, well, what would that look like? Would there be some investment, to helping the field? Because it's going to be shared between the community, between the other school, the Park West school. I'm just wondering if there's any thought around that, because people have been asking that question, and I'm just wondering, are we looking at doing anything about that, or we're still, it's something that we're planning or we're looking into? That's the case might be.
Deputy Barbrick.
Can I just ask you to clarify that?
MLA Father.
So right now, the construction that is going on is going to have a shared field. It's going to have to share the field with another school, right? So I'm just wondering, would there be significant investment? Because people are concerned right now, we use it for dog works and all of that stuff. There could be some investment, because right now it's not a field, it's just, I don't know what to call it,
Deputy Barb, you're referring to Ms. McLellan?
Yeah.
Okay, Ms. McLellan.
Yeah, so the field is going to be a shared field. Currently, there's no planned upgrades for that field, but certainly it is something that has been brought to the attention of the project staff.
Thank you. MLA Father.
My last question for now. Obviously, the Clay Park West is a very dense area. We could tell that it's also a place that is growing. I know one of the things we love a lot about in our constituency is our forest. I know that people are a bit concerned. Just want to ask, because people are sending pictures of before and after from their backyard and all of that. Is there a way the province will be able to assist in terms of vegetation plantation when the work is finally done? Because so that I know people are asking, it'd be nice for them to hear some reaction on that. Thank you.
Ms. McLellan.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, so, I mean, obviously anyone who has seen the site right now can attest to there's been a lot of tree removal. The site plan and the final site configuration does include planting and some very, very attractive landscape architecture. There'll be some extended walking paths around the school. And yes, there will certainly be greenery added to the back of the properties where the trees have been removed.
Thank you. MLA Father.
I defer to team.
MLA Elthit.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you. Some of you I'm seeing again for the second time in a little while, because you were at Public Accounts. And as I mentioned at Public Accounts, I've just been so impressed with how you've worked so hard on new builds and the modulars and upgrades to deal with our incredible growth in an area, for example, that I represent, like Bedford, where we've seen basically 2 new communities built during my previous role on City Council. So thank you for doing that, and I know that required you to pivot and to act very quickly, both all departments. My questions are regarding maintenance for the Department of Education. I understand there are 2 streams of maintenance. For example, fixing a roof is different than replacing doors or windows. Can you tell us a little bit about the 2 processes and how they differ? And that I'm not sure.
Deputy Barbrick.
Yeah, thank you for the question. And my colleagues with me will have information to offer on really the second stream. Anything over $150,000 comes from the province's capital repair budget. That's the $30 million budget envelope that we've talked about. And every year, each of my colleagues here advance their repair budget information. The other thing that's new is that all of our infrastructure in the public school system has had or is soon to be completed a facility condition assessment done on the building. That includes things like HVAC systems, roofs, windows, foundations, really a full assessment of the condition of the school. and those results are used to inform our decisions on capital repair. The intent is that those facility condition assessments that are creeping up to, condition that really needs some attention are what drive our decisions in that capital repair. The other thing that we've done recently to try to accelerate and ensure that we can use that full budget in the time before the end of fiscal, which is what's required for accounting purposes, is the RCEs and CSAP identify their priority areas, and they actually will kind of start the process of costing what it will be to repair. So by the time we finalize the list, they've already got their couple of top priority issues costed, so they can start the work immediately so that we can finish it within the fiscal. Above that is the full capital program around replacement and renewal schools, which I talked about earlier. But for the smaller value items, each of my leads here that I work with would be involved in constantly assessing what's needed in their own school within their catchment area. So they probably could offer a bit more on that window.
MLA,
No, I'm fine with that response, and thank you. I've been so interested in the movement towards modulars and knowing how it's allowed you to move faster. My understanding is that some of these are actually designed and built in Nova Scotia. Can anyone sort of tell us a little bit about that? Maybe that would be. You want it, Gerard? Is that one for you?
Mr. Gerard. Or Mr. Jessome, I mean.
Yeah, thanks for the question. We've worked hard with our partners at Education and Early Childhood Development in the regional centers on the modular program. It was really an initiative that was started at HRCE. I think it's a great concept. I think we're building some good learning environments, and there is local involvement in it, right? We're working with companies that are beginning to establish themselves as being modular leaders in the community, and we understand there's a learning process. There was a learning process for ourselves going through it as well. But I think we're getting a lot of local interest in modular construction in the area, and I think we've got some good companies that will take that and move forward and bid and be very competitive going forward.
MLA Outfit.
Well, that's exciting and good to hear. Thank you. And I believe MLA McGilvery wants to speak next. Thank you.
MLA McGilvery.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you all for being here this afternoon. Last Thursday, we had a public meeting in the town of Trenton. We're lucky enough to have the Deputy Minister, Paul LaFleche, Deputy Minister Tracey Barbrick, Public Works Chief Engineer Gerard, Jessome, and Regional Executive Director Karen Cooling in attendance. There's a new school promised for the town of Trenton in 2027 was supposed to be the opening. It's replacing two existing schools that are in fairly rough shape. So I just wanted to ask the Deputy Minister if she could maybe, for those who weren't in attendance that night, and the people watching today, what sort of conversations are going on, and what can you tell us in terms of updates, and could you maybe give us a timeline of the project as well?
Deputy Barbrick.
Yeah, thanks for the question, and thank you for including us there last week. So the Trenton School site selection for that school has taken a little bit longer than expected for various reasons involved in those sites that have been investigated. I think there's been about 11. We're closing in on final recommendations on a site. The community has been involved in the selection of that location and supports it. They are understandably concerned about the time that's been longer than we expected. So the engagement with the community last Thursday night was really wanting to understand the steps in these processes around getting a school built. I think I compare sometimes this to building a house for myself times 100 because it's a commercial building. But from the moment we make an announcement about a school, of course, people are really anxious to see that unfold, understandably. And if I was building a house, from the moment I decided to build the house to the moment I lived in it, can take a varying path depending on what land is available, what infrastructure is attached to that, utilities, does it fit the square footage I need, what's the design, is there any contours or things on the property that have to be worked with, do I need to change the design at some point, can I get skilled tradespeople, all of that kind of thing. And then you multiply that times 100 because of the commercial nature and the size of the building and the needs of the school. So, it does not seem to be a linear path on getting these schools built. So the conversation in the community was that we're narrowing in on what we think is the final recommendation. That goes to Minister Maguire. That's part of the regulatory process. Minister Maguire gets a site assessment, a package from Department of Public Works. He confirms that selection. Then we proceed with design, and that gets tendered out. Then the school advisory committee gets formed, and people are engaged along the process to get it built. There had been some short-term concerns with the existing facility, so we talked a bit about how we've used Karen and her team have used their capital repair budget to keep those 2 existing schools in as good a condition as we can while we get the new school built. And there were some concerns that we've committed to taking a closer look at to see if there needs to be any interim solutions.
Thank you. MLA McGilvery.
Thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it, and really appreciate your presence there last Thursday as well. I'm going to ask Ms. Cooling if she could maybe speak to the CRCA's involvement in the process, or just outline the Deputy Minister. If you could do that, I'd appreciate it.
Sorry, Ms. Cooling.
Sorry. So definitely, as Deputy Barbrick alluded to, we are currently actively maintaining the 2 buildings. We're excited for the site selection and opening of the new school, but in the meantime, priority with our operations team is ensuring that work orders that come in are dealt with and handled, and that we're prioritizing that. And we have property services directly on site in one of the 2 schools, so that's an asset to have that in that component. And once the site's selected, we're definitely excited to lead the work with the school steering team and be able to have parent, community, and staff voice through that process as well that we'll continue to work on.
Thank you. MLA McGilvery.
Thank you very much for those answers. And once again, I want to thank the 4 individuals coming down last Thursday. It's not always easy, the public meetings, but they did a tremendous job and the information was communicated. So thank you all for that. And I'll pass on to MLA Sheehy-Richard.
MLA Sheehy-Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And like my colleague, we have so many cast of witnesses here today. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask a question related to my own constituency. In 2023, we did announce a new school that's going to replace 2 smaller schools. I remember when my children went to one of the schools, Windsor Forks, at that time conversations were happening about capacity, water quality, and things of that nature. So I guess, as I know from what I'm learning in committee today, that site selection is not an easy process. There's many moving factors, but in particular, because there are 2 schools, I'm just curious, where we are in that. I know that those 2 schools had to be assessed, and I'm just wondering if there's anything that the Department of Public Works could add or to where we are in that site selection or that stage of the process.
Ms. McLellan.
Thank you for your question. So this is a consolidation, as you said, of 2 existing schools, both 1960 vintage, so they're up there in age. So where we started site selection in October of 2024. Where we started with that was looking at the 2 existing sites to see if either of those were appropriate to build a new consolidated building. It was determined that it was not suitable, it was not favorable. So our next step then was to move on to municipal and provincially owned land. That is the step we're at now. And we are looking at particular properties. We have started investigation on those, meaning geotech, survey, those sorts of things, but do not have a recommendation at this time because it's still in process.
Thank you. MLA Sheehy-Richard.
And I guess further to that, as you know, when you see projects like that consolidate two different areas, and we bring, it's exciting, but nervous for the students and the families that it affects, to make sure that, I guess, what are you doing? How does this process unfold when you're thinking about the honoring each school's unique features that they have, for example? And I think that's probably more the departments of education, perhaps.
Deputy Barbrick?
Yeah, thanks for the question. And I think Dave Jones in front of me probably has some thoughts on this, given that he will be the person that's responsible to bring those children's, the family of schools together in that consolidated school. I grew up in Tatamagouche, where we took an elementary school and a high school into one PP to 12 school. So certainly that was very important to the community. And I heard a lot about it at the time. I wasn't in this role, maybe thankfully at the time, but certainly any change in design of school can be challenging for people. But in that case, because the standard that I referenced early is really like the playbook for the layout of the school, it really is more formulaic than you might realize, given how much variation you see in completed schools and how unique they can look. But the standards that they follow in terms of square footage for the enrollment number is actually quite prescribed, and then the design variation is around that. I know we've talked a lot about the idea of, because I grew up in Tatamagouche, there was 3 high schools exactly the same that were all kind of commissioned at the same time. And it's amazing how much variation in a school based on grade, configuration, size of school, layout of the land changes what can actually happen on that land. So in that community, of course, bringing those two schools together will be, a careful navigation of a change in dynamic in the school. And I don't know if you have time, but Dave Jones probably has some thoughts, given he has those schools in his catchment.
Thank you. Mr. Jones.
Thanks for the question. Certainly, we've met during the beginning stage of this process. We met with the community, we met with the SAC, we met with the staff, and met with the principal, the 2 principals, and talked about that. Certainly from the community, we heard that they wanted to make sure the new school reflects their community. 3 Mile Plains is a historical Black community, and certainly from that community, they wanted to ensure that when the school is built, they see themselves reflected in that community. We heard the same thing from the families in Windsor Forks. They wanted to see their community reflected. While there's certainly some standards in terms of the building, as Deputy Barbrick mentioned, there are things that you can do in the building to make sure it looks and is welcoming to the children and the families. When we get to that point, we'll engage the school advisory committee in order to bring that together and say, what does that look like in the building? And I'm confident that our staff, our leadership at those 2 schools, and our staff, regional staff, will work with them to do the best job that we can in order to make sure that school is welcoming and bringing those 2 schools together. And I would anticipate that the work to bring those 2 school communities together will start well before the school opens, in terms of the school communities joining together to do activities, so that they get to know each other before they join each other in the one school. So we're very excited about the announcement. Certainly, a brand new school in that area is welcomed, and I'm confident that the school staff will do a great job to bring that together and bring the voice of the community into the school in different ways as they can.
Thank you. MLA Sheehy Richard.
Appreciate that. And as you know, I was able to get to, I think, both of the meetings. Maybe, yes, I did. I was trying to think, we were in the legislature, I think, at the time, and I know that folks now that, a couple years creep in, these will be welcomed reassurances, I guess, to community. People are generally pretty open and optimistic and excited about this, and it's certainly, as you say, by the age of them, something that was desperately required. So I'm going to move on to just a little different line of questioning. I wasn't fortunate enough to be in the Public Accounts Committee when the Auditor General's was discussed, and I'm just wondering, you briefed on it a little bit earlier. from those recommendations, as the department has accepted them all, if you could walk us through how the implementation is progressing a little bit more on the other recommendations and what the process looks like, and maybe how it's going to, a little more detail on what we could expect to see in the future from those recommendations.
Deputy Barbrick.
Sure, thanks. Thank you for the question. The findings of the audit were very helpful to us and not out of line with what we were feeling, the work that we needed to do. So we were not surprised by any of those results, and some of them were already underway. 2 of them are already complete. I do want to take a second, though, to make sure that some of the positive findings of the Auditor General are recognized both by the team here as well as others. She found that the enrollment projections tool, the software, the Gallagher software, that takes into account development plans in the community, Statistics Canada results around population, even age group of populations to help determine where there might be family growth. It's a pretty sophisticated tool that all of my colleagues here use regularly and is updated annually. And those are used to extrapolate plans into the future. The Auditor General recognized the robustness of that enrollment projection process. The other was the process around replacement and renovation schools. She recognized were supported by evidence, so there wasn't question around that. The other was the categorization of low, medium, high priorities was recognized as robust. So having said that, her recommendations that she included were, again, focused on the growth schools, that we did not have sufficient process around the growth schools. So we recognize that. Those quantitative criteria are in development now. We've worked on those and they're on track with what we've committed. The recommendation that we and Public Works work together to do everything we can to accelerate build projects, and Public Works can talk a bit about that, but there has been some of that is design build description that I think Gerard and Tonya have made at previous committee. Some of the commentary around how we're moving towards involving the build, in many cases, preparing the land, starting the foundation work before the design is complete, but when the square footage is determined. So those things are on track. The third recommendation was updating the structure of our scoring committee, which we've done already. So that's complete. The next one was, again, back on our growth scoring committee and ensuring that we're focused on kind of quantitative assessment in that space. The other was complete all of our facility condition assessments, which will be completed by the end of this fiscal. For the first time every school in this province will have a quantifiable facility condition assessment, which informs all of our repair work. It's really gold in the space of repair. And finally was, to our earlier conversation, updating the information available on our...
Sorry to do that to you again. Just a reminder to our witnesses, when you're answering questions, if you'd like to look at the clocks, there is a countdown to give you all an awareness of how much time might be left on the clock. So we will now go into our second round. It's a quicker round. We will go to the opposition. There's a total of 11 minutes and 30 seconds for the opposition and 11 minutes and 30 seconds for the government caucuses. And is there an understanding? I think it's being split 50-50? Okay, so we'll go to the NDP caucus, and would that be MLA Wozni, please?
Yeah, I just want to loop back to some comments about projected childcare spaces. We know what the commitment to meet the 9,500 net new childcare spaces in agreement with the federal government by March of 2026. But we've heard some numbers about, sort of being in the 90% on the way to hitting target. But we're in possession of data from Employment and Social Development Canada, which is a federal government body that monitors the progress of sort of this goal from a federal perspective, and they report that Nova Scotia has only created 6,542 childcare spaces of the promised 9,500 as of March of 2025. So that's a significant gap between what we say we have achieved and what the federal government views us as having achieved. And I guess I want to ask the EECD, we know that parents are paying more than double the $10 a day cost on average for childcare in Nova Scotia, despite all of the investment that the government's made. If parents in Nova Scotia had access to $10 a day childcare, they would save more than $3,600 per child per year. Shouldn't we make this cost saving for parents a priority given the economic landscape that families are facing?
Deputy Barbrick.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think the update from ESDS was back in March. I think we've added 1,500 spots since then in the last year. So I don't have the month by month. It's on our website, though. If you want to go to our website, it actually has a quarterly update on exactly what's open since then. In terms of the $10 a day, I don't know what your calculation is based on, but that's fine. And the answer is yes, absolutely. We need to pursue affordable childcare, and we have with children under 6. We've done a 50% reduction over the last 5 years. And children over 6, 25% reduction. And we will continue to work with our federal government partners to get to the most affordable childcare program that we can possibly have.
Thank you. MLA Wozni.
I'd like to direct this question to Mr. Collette from the CSFP. Mr. Collette, enrollment growth across the CSFP school and its schools over the past 10 years has been on average 16% or more. Your opening remarks flagged the lag in devotion of school capital funding to meet sustained, prolonged growth pressures in the schools that the CSIP oversees. Is funding for school infrastructure keeping up with known and projected enrollment growth within the CSIP?
Monsieur Collette.
So CSAP has received a lot of new schools in the past 10 years. The reality is that when CSAP was created, a lot of the schools that CSAP inherited were schools that were in the English system. And the province built new schools for the English students, and we received the old English schools. So as we move forward in the past 10 years, there have been a lot of infrastructure renewal for CSAP because they are schools that were already at the end of their life when we inherited them. So to answer your question on is infrastructure keeping up, the answer to that question is no. The report clearly states that 27.5% of students in this province who can attend a French first language school do. And although there are many reasons, the biggest one is geography and distance in catchment areas. I am deeply concerned that 75% of French first language students in this province do not attend a CSAP school, in large part because of the lack of equitable infrastructure.
MLA Wozni.
Thank you for that. We very much take that point. We know that the CSFA has been working to establish a third CSFP high school in the Halifax metro region for quite some time, and understanding all the pressures, cost of land, et cetera, while we applaud the creation of a bilateral committee with the minister, what can you tell us about the progress of realizing a third CSFP high school that lessens the pressure that École de Sommet and École Mosaic are currently operate under?
Monsieur Collette, with 40 seconds.
So a new high school or high school in the peninsula is priority 2 and has been priority 2 for the elected board for a few years now. We have data that show that approximately 80% of students leave in grade 9 and do not move forward in their French first language education because of distance. So we are working with government on that matter. We have been working for years. I'm hopeful that this new committee will move that priority forward, as it is a big issue for us, and it remains so.
Thank you very much. We will now go to the Liberal Caucus with 5 minutes and 45 seconds. MLA Mumbercat.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We don't have much time, but I will ask specifically about just a couple situations in Cape Breton. You know what I mean? Sydney Academy, Riverview High School. If I can get an update just on the deliberations, both of those schools service, our high school population in the greater Sydney area. Looking for any kind of update. Are they part of the conversation around what the future looks like for new school infrastructure for students there, especially Sydney Academy, where Sydney Academy's had some pretty significant damage over the last number of years?
Hey, would that be Deputy Ms. Kelly? Ms. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Both of those high schools are on our requests for new schools coming up to the future. Sydney Academy, we are doing some work inside this year and making a new classroom, doing some pretty significant improvements inside. We have had some work done at Sydney Academy because we had a leak, and so sometimes those things happen and you do get some improvements because of that. So Sydney Academy has had some improvements. Riverview also has had improvements. As you know, a number of years ago, they took down the addition on if you're facing the school, the left-hand side, and then they've done a lot of work on the entrance and the gym and some of those areas, or the music room. But they are still both on our request for new buildings.
MLA Mumbercat.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. Appreciate that very much. I get that question a lot at home. My next question is around childcare, and I'll just feed off of what my colleague said, and I'll through you, Mr. Chair, to the deputy. Is the deputy confident that they will hit that target by the end of the agreement, first leg of the agreement, the childcare deal?
Deputy Barbrick.
Yeah, we're on track for the 9,500 seats as committed under the agreement.
Thank you. MLA Mumbercat.
Through you, and just for the record, through the deputy, is the deputy committing today and feel confident that you'll hit $10 a day by the end of the contract?
Deputy Barbrick.
I think Minister Maguire has acknowledged that in our continuing engagement with the federal government around the next action plan, we are working out the details to allow us to get there.
MLA Mumbercat.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I would table the article if I had it here. I am concerned around the fact that the federal government did at one point say that there has been no engagement with the province when it comes to the renegotiation. That original agreement, I know a lot of work went into it. It was an agreement that was signed off by advocates in the sector, families, the target being $10 a day by the end of the contract. And 9,500 spaces, benefits, wages, pensions for workers. So, I'm hopeful, and I really hope that we do hit that $10 a day average. And it also ties into the infrastructure side of this too as well. We also know that some of these child care centers are part of new school builds. So through you to the deputy, of the new schools that are under construction, how many of them are going to have child care centers attached to them?
Deputy Barbrick.
Thanks. Yeah, I just want to clarify the previous comment about no engagement with the federal government. There certainly has been. So we had a combination of the last agreement was signed in late summer, and then we had a federal election, and then I think everybody's readjusting to the current priorities for the federal government, and we are still working our way through some of the provisions under that last agreement. So lots of active engagement, not tied up with a bow just yet, so we continue to work on it. The new capital builds, I could go through the list, but I won't, because I know I'm looking at the clock now. We, about a little more than half half of those new constructions have a child care center as part of the design. And every school that is, to be included as part of the capital plan is assessed in that community for childcare demand. And if there's demand there, then we're building it into the design. The federal government under the action plan, of course, had some capital money, so we're leveraging all that capital money everywhere we can. And an existing construction project is certainly a great place to tack on a childcare facility when it works for the community and when that's what the need is. So we'll continue to use that as a model unless there's reason to believe in that community that there just isn't demand, which is seldom the case.
MLA Umbercat, 30 seconds.
Thank you. It's hard, not really much time to answer or ask a question and get an answer on it, but I do. I'm hopeful that the conversations do continue with the federal government on the child care deal. As I said, that's something that matters immensely to families. I had a front row seat to the whole thing when it started, and I know the work that the department did to actually get that over the finish line under the parameters which the federal government gave us of the day. I still have some concerns around why we may not hit the average $10 a day, but I ran out of time, so I can't say anything else. So thank
Order. Thank you. We'll now move on to the government caucus. And for 11 minutes and 30 seconds, beginning with MLA Outfit.
Happy to. Yes. I won't take 11 minutes and 30 seconds. I just wanted to talk a little bit about annual maintenance. Can somebody mention that anything built in the 1960s is getting pretty old? Well, as something that was built in the 1960s with a little maintenance, I hope to have a little life left in me. So that just made me think about if we could get a little bit of an update on the type of maintenance that's being done annually to extend the life and improve the safety, of course, and healthiness of our schools. Can I know?
Deputy Barbrick.
Thanks for the question. And again, my colleagues here have two things that happen for them. One, the projects that are approved under our repair budget. It really comes back to them, and they go about the process of getting that work done with their teams. But just to go a bit into the facility condition index and why that is so valuable to us, that didn't exist before a couple of, the last 2 years, we've basically done assessments of all properties. But they do a very comprehensive, kind of a 300-point assessment of every building. So that's a huge asset to us, but more so to my colleagues as they assess all of their maintenance needs in their buildings, to have that kind of a tool that's specific to help categorize things so that we're really doing repair projects on things that change the facility condition assessments. So again, back to the Auditor General's report, she identified our 10 kind of schools with the highest or the generally the oldest schools, and it really targets that repair work. So for instance, those 10 schools that the Auditor General recognized, there are major capital projects happening in all of them or capital repair projects to bring those conditions up to the level that they need to be at to keep them going longer. So that tool has just been a quantifiable assessment that allows much more specific understanding of where the need is, and then for us to compare that across the province. So it's not, that it's really equitable in terms of the need there. But if you had time, I think all of these colleagues of mine have significant projects underway that they probably can speak a bit to their side of the equation.
Well, MLA Outfit, would you like to hear from a few of the RCEs here?
No, I think there's a couple other folks who want to ask questions. Okay. So let me just really quickly, we're all excited about the lunch program and the expanded lunch program, but that must have required some capital work as well. I don't know if the Deputy has any thoughts on that, but you had to sort of pivot quickly on that.
Deputy Barbrick.
Yeah, thanks. That did create another opportunity with the creation of the school lunch program. In September was the second phase of that rollout. All schools other than dedicated grade 10 to 12 schools now have a school lunch program. And there's really 3 models that are used. One of them is employees of these people actually run what I'd call an old school kind of school lunch program where you have employees that work there. The second is using the on-site kitchen but contracting out the service. And then the third piece is a fully tendered repair, or a school lunch program. So with that fund, it's about $65 million in school lunches. As we have built capacity to roll out school lunch programs, we had some schools with kitchens, but didn't meet the commercial needs of a kind of school lunch production of that magnitude. So we were able, through that fund, to actually do some upgrades in schools that allowed that kitchen to be functioning, as well as maybe benefited the school in other ways, like electrical upgrades, things that allowed the school to operate, but also the school lunch program to operate, but also benefited the school more broadly. So that was a great opportunity for some capital repair work.
MLA Sheehy-Richard.
Thank you for that. I feel a little bit hungry, I will say, as a side note, that I just purchased the Nourish Nova Scotia What's for Lunch cookbook, and we made, as a family, the noodle recipe on the weekend, and it was absolutely delicious. I'm like, we are making more of these. So anyway, I want to circle back because you brought up the collaborative design build model. And I'm just wondering, with that model where you say the foundation can start before some of the design work is even complete, can it prevent schools or help, I guess, help prevent schools for not going over said budget? Does that play into account why that model would be a collaborative approach?
Ms. McLellan.
Thank you for the question. So collaborative design build, I'll just give a little bit of a background on exactly what that is. And it's a model whereby we go out to industry, we pre-qualify groups, teams. So the team would consist of a general contractor and then the designer. So they're engaged at the very beginning. In addition to that, it's a very collaborative approach with respect to the Department of Public Works, and as well EECD and the regional centers and CSAP as well. So everybody is at the table. They're making decisions. So part of those decisions, of course, are around costing. And what this process allows us to do is there's different checkpoints along the way. And we get costing from both the construction design team and as well a third-party cost consultant. And we compare the two. And we look for ways, if our costs are starting to get somewhat out of line, we have the right people at the table at that time to look at what modifications, what sorts of things could we look for efficiencies in.
MLA Sheehy-Richard.
Thank you, Chair. I just have one more follow-up, and I'm going to pass over. But so would you say that there's been any concerns if you identify a particular group around the delivery model, whether it leaves smaller, more local businesses out, and how would the department be supporting Nova Scotia-grown businesses to participate in that collaborative approach?
Ms. McLellan.
Thank you for the question. So I alluded to earlier that there's teams built. So they consist of locally based construction companies, and we encourage local firms, local design firms, to partner up with those. Once we get that team put together and the design progresses and we're tendering, they have to follow provincial guidelines for tendering process. So it's wide open within the province. I will say, though, however, we have added some wording just of late to our request for proposals, encouraging the use of Nova Scotia materials as well as local content.
Thank you. I think we're going to move on to MLA Fatheray.
Thank you very much. I know some of my members opposite have talked about daycare, and I just want to ask that there are 21 schools in Nova Scotia now that offer before and after program. I'm just trying to find out what are those responses like from families and communities, you know, in terms of how that's going to address the need in those areas.
Deputy Barbrick.
Thanks for the question. And again, my colleagues here have so much experience at their local level in implementing expansion to before and after school care program. It really has been quite incredible. HRCE, of course, has Excel. The other RCE, CSAP have other providers of before and after school care, but we've expanded capacity about 35% in before and after school care on site. Lots of families, that's an excellent option for them to be able to take their child to school, and the child stays in that one setting until they're able to pick them up after work. So for children 6 and over, that's a very popular model and significant expansion. If you had time, I think there are lots of great experiences.
Okay, so we'll go to Mr. Gallagher with 1 minute and 20 seconds.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the question. We see a demand in Halifax for before and after school care. We have for many years. Currently, we have 6,876 seats available. We have a wait list. But we did grow the program between June and September of this year by 860 seats. And I will say that we continue to look for opportunities to grow. With us, it is not a question of space. We have the facilities. It's a question of staff. And it's a challenge to hire folks to work partial segments of a day. And that's what we run into. But we're actively recruiting, and every opportunity we have to put a note out there, if somebody wants to work part-time for us, we welcome them. And working with kids in the before and after school program is a great opportunity and a good way to start or end your day. So if you know anybody, let us know.
MLA Fatheray.
Excited to hear that, because I think that offers each and everyone an opportunity to put out the word, you know, within our communities to see how they can be a part and parcel of it. I think from what I've heard today, I'm really encouraged. I think each person in here, regardless of party tribe, should be excited that there's progress in the right direction, and that I think we're making the right strides. So I just want to say thank you for coming, and and do have a good day.
Thank you very much, and to all of our guests today, thank you for coming. We'd like to extend an opportunity for any closing remarks to any of our guests that would like to, just a few words to say in closing. Mr. Gallagher?
I just want to take a moment to thank you all for the invitation and the opportunity to talk about our story of growth in Halifax. Thank you.
Mr. Jones?
I'll echo the same comments as Mr. Gallagher. Pleased to be here. Always excited to talk about what's happening in the Annapolis Valley. So thank you.
Mr. Purdy?
Yeah, first and foremost, thanks for having me here today. Really excited about the work ahead in Tri-County and appreciate the collaboration with the government.
Ms. Kelly?
And I'll echo the other statements. Thank you all. It's been an education.
Good. Is this for us too? Ms. Cooling?
Hard to follow that. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time and appreciate being here. Thank you.
Monsieur Collette?
Thank you very much for your specific questions for CSAP. I have copies of the report with me if anyone wants a copy.
Ms. Glavin?
Thank you all for having us here, and appreciate all of my team. It's hard to come up with an original comment at this point, but thank you for your time.
Mr. Landry?
Thank you for the invitation to attend today. Thank you.
Deputy? No? Deputy, we're good? Great. All right. Well, thank you once again for coming. We're going to take just about a 2-minute recess to allow our guests to leave, and then we'll just come back to our committee business as soon as our guests are gone. Stand adjourned. Order. Could you close the doors, please? Okay, so we'll get back into our business. I understand a motion has come through, and MLA Wozni, do you have a couple comments?
I do. Do you want me to just read the motion? And then... Okay, so the motion reads, whereas Nova Scotia has some of the highest childcare fees in the country, with families paying more than $20 a day, and whereas the responsible minister has admitted that families will not see their childcare costs drop to $10 a day in the spring, as was previously promised, and whereas by not lowering fees to $10 a day, families will spend thousands of dollars more on childcare each year than parents in other provinces. Therefore, I move that the Standing Committee on Human Resources affirm its support for the delivery of, on average, $10 a day childcare for Nova Scotian parents by April 2026. And I request a clear plan outlining the steps that will be taken to meet our target of $10 a day childcare for all parents and the creation of over 9,500 childcare spaces.
Thank you, MLA Wozni. There's a motion on the table. Discussion. MLA Barbrick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just very quickly, I just want to confirm, because this came up in the committee today, which is my concern around how this government has handled this childcare deal from day one, which was a constant fight with the Trudeau government, who they wanted to fight with all of the time. This was from 2 weeks ago in CBC, where the federal government representative from Social Development told CBC in an email negotiations with Nova Scotia on a new Canada-wide ELCC agreement have not occurred. So I just want to put that on the record. Hopefully those conversations have happened. We are in full support of this, because it is the spirit of the agreement to hit $10 a day in the first round, and of course we're going to support the motion.
Okay. Any further? MLA Gallagher.
Thank you, Chair. As you know, I'm a mother, and I can relate to families who are talking to me about childcare prices, and $10 a day childcare would make a big difference in the lives of Nova Scotians, and I think we should recommit to $10 a day. Thank you.
Thank you. MLA Sheehy-Richard.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to make a few comments. I don't know if anyone realizes, but after I had my third baby, I myself provided childcare in my home and took in other children as a means to both have a little bit of income, but also help families in a much needed rural community. But what I think is being overlooked is that we're creating something that never existed. It's a whole new set of ways and systems, and each individual, whether it be private or funded, has their own business model. So I don't think that it should be overlooked also about the inclusion of private childcare arrangements, which would have been something that I offered. I know, as myself personally, I would think that that would have been a little, a lot to learn. So I was very happy to see that, because I think in especially rural Nova Scotia, we're going to rely heavily to meet our targets with those organizations and with those at-home, sorry, I lost my train of thought, at-home providers. And also, we continue to have ongoing dialogue, despite I'm not sure why that article would say that, with the federal government. I know, speaking with Mr. Minister McGuire, that is occurring. We appreciate the cooperation that we've had with them. Like I said, this is a transformational process that we're trying to undertake. And with that, we will not be supporting this motion. The motion cannot circumvent or replace conversations that still need to happen.
Order. So that will be deferred till the next meeting. And so the next meeting will be December the 2nd, 2025, from 1 to 3 p.m. The topic will be government investment in healthcare tuition programs and the response of the post-secondary institutions. The witnesses will be the Department of Advanced Education, Nova Scotia Community College, with Don Bureau, President, Andrew Lafford, Vice President Academic. So with that, meeting is adjourned.